Today is June 25th, 2020. I'm Selena.
And I'm Andre. This is Bringing It Full Circle News. How are you today, Selena?
I am really good. I'm really excited, especially after last night. Just got the vibes and excited to go.
Ready to go? All right, so tell us what's in world news. What's up?
So we've got some stuff going on in world news. It's actually national news today. $20 bills. You know we love them, right? The man on the $20 bill, Andrew Jackson, however, some people are not crazy about him, the president. Apparently, people in Washington, D.C. don't like his statue. Protesters attempted to take down the statue of the president on Monday night, but police intervened. Some of the protesters dressed in black with goggles, helmets, and masks scaled the statue, draped ropes around the seventh president astride a horse. About 150 police, along with helicopters, moved in on the protesters at Lafayette Park, and several were arrested for disgraceful vandalism. I was wondering, along with a lot of people I'm sure were, why would protesters want to remove the statue of Andrew Jackson, the man on the $20 bill? But many people do not agree with his harsh treatment of some Americans. Andrew Jackson was known for his harsh treatment of Native Americans as president. He signed an Indian Removal Act, which led to the relocation of thousands of Native Americans and the death of thousands more. Jackson also was an enslaver. Many of the protesters believe that the former president doesn't represent what America is built on, which is diversity and freedom. I don't know, Andre. Do you think their motives outweigh their actions?
I'm going to be very honest with you. It is time to stop representing that which does not represent the American truths nor way. If you built a Pledge of Allegiance on a certain basis, then you should stick by that basis. And if anything that does not stick to that basis or is not on that basis of liberty, justice, equality, freedom, I will say this. I also am not for tearing down statues of people on people's public or private property. I'm not for that. But right. Should it be there? Maybe not.
What do you think about? Do you think the statue should be destroyed completely, or do you think maybe it should go into a museum so that the history of it is still there?
Take it there.
Okay. Yeah, it shouldn't be displayed.
Absolutely. Just take it there.
Okay. Well, what news do you have for us in Alabama?
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Alabama news, folks. Get ready. Alabama's scorching hot already with the weather, but we do have some Alabama news, obviously, right now. And it goes a little something like this. As you can see right here, my screen, it says Blowin Up. It's talking about Chasity Barnes. Chasity D. Barnes was a Houston County and lived in for most of her life in Webb, Alabama. As the daughter of Lander and Betty Barnes, she was a devoted follower of Jesus Christ. She was bold with her faith. She wasn't afraid to let people know. Chasity spoke about blowing up and making a market on the world. Chasity always encouraged others to receive their education and push forward in life, as she received her bachelor's degree in public relations and journalism from Troy University in 2002, and her master's degree in business associate administration from Troy University in 2007. But obviously, with good things come bad things. So Chasity was attacked with a vengeance because she was a strong believer of Christ. And obviously, people tried to break her down. Even in her last hour, she remained strong and kept God on her focus, as the doctors said. They were amazed to see a young woman with such strong faith. But sadly, on March 30th, 2009, Chasity suffered from a blood clot just days after being diagnosed with cancer. But her memory lives on through the Chasity D. Barnes Memorial Scholarship and nonprofit organization called Chastity's Champions. So positivity. This is what we're about. here at Bringing It Full Circle. And if you want to, at any point in time, comment, reflect, question anything that you are seeing on this platform, you can hit us on Twitter, BIF Circle. Selena, how do you feel about Chasity D bars and others as such?
I'm really moved by it. I'm really moved by the positivity of the whole thing. And as we get to see more and more of this, it's hard for me to talk about it without crying, honestly. I know, I'm the sentimental type. It's just, I love to see the positivity. I love to see the empowering and, so much to say and do, in and around your community is heartwarming.
Awesome. What's going on in Wisconsin?
Well, so we actually have a lot going on in Wisconsin right now. I'm going to highlight something that's not quite as positive because I think it needs to be brought out there. Disturbing news in Wisconsin, as government and advocacy organizations say, white nationalism has seen particular vibration in the present weeks, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Earlier in this month in Wausau, the 57-year-old man is accused of harassing Asian American customers at a grocery store for wearing masks. He too is facing hate crime charges when the police department learned that the Hmong and the Asian community have endured an increase of harassment since the start of COVID-19 pandemic, and we all know why that is. We all have opinions on why that is. In Conover, a man was photographed walking his dog while wearing a Ku Klux Klan costume. Experts say these are all instances a horrifying national trend, stirring up tension, particularly on social media, also in schools, workplaces, and communities that are open. In 2018, Baraboo, Wisconsin, was globally recognized for a junior prom picture, which depicted young men standing in front of the courthouse doing a Nazi salute. Weeks later, flyers featuring anti-Semitic messages and warnings were posted to the exterior walls of the Jack Young Middle School. The community was torn when several witnesses of the prom picture swore the photographer directed the boys to give a high five. Many citizens speculated that underground hate groups had worked to correlate the two incidents to make Baraboo appear like a racist community, while other citizens attested that Baraboo is passively or downright racist, especially highlighting racism amongst our Native Americans. In 2015, 11 hate groups were operating in Wisconsin, in the Wisconsin communities. By 2019, in Wisconsin, that number stands at 15. The SPLC does not track the numbers of each group, so it's hard to officially know how many members are part of each group. Stanislav Viskowski, an associate professor at the University of Whitewater, Wisconsin, said the white supremacist movement is pushing for a less centralized model, which means most people who identify with such hate groups operate deeply underground. There are 11 official organized hate groups in Wisconsin. Among them are New Order, that is a group with a hatred for Jews and a love for Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. Pilgrim's Covenant Church, which preaches against gays, lesbians, transgender people. Act for America is an anti-Muslim hate group that pushes anti-Muslim conspiracy theories. Statewide, 5 of the 15 groups identified by the SPLC identified as white nationalists, such as Ku Klux Klan. Some of the KKK chapters were active in the state. Those chapters eventually fell off the group's list of active groups, but photos and social media posts in recent weeks shows the right position never really left the region. Experts say some groups, like the base, are more terrorist-oriented. Local groups aren't likely to appear in the SPLC's hate map anytime soon, and there are no indicators of how many people join such groups officially. it's hard to phase that out, Viskowski says. You just never really know who sympathizes with these views and who does not. Do you think there are underground hate groups who are trying to pose as protesters to shed a negative light on peaceful protesters trying to create division?
Yeah, absolutely. Antifa is one of them. Boogaloo is another one. There's multiple hate groups. Actually, there was some here right in Buffalo when they had the peaceful protests that were coming in peaceful protests and making a muck or looking to cause problems with the protests.
Okay. Yeah, it's really disturbing when you don't know who are the peaceful protesters and who are not, who are trying to drive rift and more division in our country. It's really frustrating, actually.
Absolutely, very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. It's very frustrating to see these type of events being taken for granted or taken for a joke. Um, it's a sad thing to see. You can't push a positive agenda if it's being tarnished by negativity.
And it really is, especially when we're trying to be out here and we're trying to be positive and hopeful to everybody out there. We still have to bring awareness to some of these things so that we know that they're there, and we have to learn how to use love and kindness to combat that and empower people.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Andre, do you have any more news from us from New York or Alabama?
Oh, absolutely. Western New York, what's going on? Buffalo, how y'all doing in the 716? I'm gonna start off this news from Buffalo straight up at the mayor's house. All right. I want y'all to see something real quick. I'm gonna take you there. I'm gonna take you right there. We're gonna start from the very beginning. This is right here in Western New York, folks. Right at the mayor's house. Okay.
Get off of this property!
On the street. We apologize in advance for the vulgarity. But this was at the mayor's house yesterday. As they protest. There's the mayor.
Also, bike to the front. Bike to the front. White allies! White allies!
That was at the mayor's house earlier yesterday. Police was waiting outside the mayor's house as the group arrived and the mayor was escorted out. There is a lot of things going on here in Western New York, and we have a lot of community activists who are positively trying to give everyone truth into what is going on as far as the protests and things that are just going on in the Western New York region, period. Obviously, we've talked about a couple of them, and on Citizens Voice today, we will have Taniqua Simmons on the show. More news in Buffalo. A 23-year-old victim was shot and killed on LaSalle Street. It was Tuesday. It was Tuesday evening. The victim who was shot died. 23-year-old man. They haven't given a name yet. Was declared dead at ECMC, where he was taken after he was struck by gunfire at 7:20 p.m. on the 600 block of LaSalle Avenue near Suffolk. The other victim was a 22-year-old Buffalo woman. She was treated for injury at ECMC and then released. In another shooting Tuesday, a man suffered a leg wound at 620 on Winter Street between Hampshire and Massachusetts on the city's west side. He was also treated. After he was transported to ECMC. There are no further details, but anyone with information on these shootings, they can call the tip line, Buffalo Police confidential tip line at 2255. We got more news in Buffalo. There has been discussion about naming a Buffalo street Black Lives Matter. The street that they want to name Black Lives Matter actually was the street that I grew up on as a kid. So they want to turn Fillmore Avenue, which is a major street in Buffalo, into Black Lives Matter street. I want to know from you guys. You can hit us up on BIF Circle on Twitter. How do you feel about cities and government that want to change names of city streets to memorialize historic events or moments? Selena, how do you feel? I just want to know from you first. I'm sure we will get a lot of feedback on this.
I think it's a great idea. I do, playing devil's advocate, I can see other street names trying to mirror that and combat that. But I think it's a great idea. Something that particularly comes to mind is last week you had talked about in Alabama the mural around the fountain, which was so pretty. I loved it. It was so pretty. In Missouri, citizens had painted Black Lives Matter on the street, and it was really nice looking. It was very clean and edgy looking, but it just said it was really nice and big. And then police went over it with blue paint and painted back over it. So I'm scared that we're just going to face more of that. But in the same token, I would hope that people would be more open-minded to it. Hopefully our news can bring them that open-mindedness.
Awesome. I like the dialogue. I love it. Love it. Thank you, Selena, for that.
Absolutely.
All right. One other thing in New York State news before we get into Citizens' Voice, we had protesters waking up after spending a second night camped out outside of City Hall in New York City. These protesters are outside demanding $1 billion in cuts from the New York City Police Department as they want more money for housing, education, and social services. So they've been out here a couple of nights in New York City protesting what is the $1 billion that they want defunded. That's a really weird word. We should be using probably reallocated. But they're using defunded for the New York City Police Department. And I have video here for you guys, by the way. I'll show you a little video of what's going on in New York City. So that's what's going on right there in New York City. Selena.
I'm mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Are we going to advertise for Verizon now? I'm sorry. We have a very special guest tonight on Citizens Voice. We have Taniqua Simmons. Welcome, Taniqua.
Hey,
There we go.
Yay.
technology.
Yes, technology, folks.
I'm a baby Zoom user, Taniqua, so I'm learning as well with the Zoom. I really am.
So, Taniqua, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I want to know how you feel about police reform. And go ahead.
How I feel about what?
Police reform.
What'd you say?
I want to know how you feel about police reform.
Well, I believe that police reform is desperately needed at this point as we continue to see a lot of video surfacing in regards to police brutality and police abuse. So police reform is definitely needed, but we need to know what that looks like and what police reform really is beyond the ceremonious news press conference about police reform that our politicians have been having.
Explain in more in depth on on police reform? And do you actually think that there is going to be police reform here in the city of Buffalo?
Well, I don't believe that we're going to get police reform in the city of Buffalo because the people don't understand what police reform is. When we have politicians that are pushing forward reforms, but these reforms are not being collectively bargained with the police union, then we're not going to see real reform because we have a police unions across the country that have more power in our communities than our politicians, because if it's not within the contract and negotiated, then the police basically ignore those mandates.
Wow. Wow. I hope everyone heard that. I definitely hope everybody took that in. I'm not understanding. Drop it. Give us a little bit more in depth on why that is. I mean, don't we have a mayor who's about positive change here in the 6?
Yes, we have a mayor in the city of Buffalo that says he's about change and positive change and police reform, but they're not educating the public as to what that means. Because if these reforms are not negotiated in the police contract, then we're not going to get the reforms that we desperately need. And the police unions have a lot of power. They take a piece of every police officer's paycheck and they use that to lobby legislators and to lobby for legislation. So with that being said, they're very powerful, and a lot of politicians don't like to go up against the police unions because they rather be reelected than really push for the reforms that the people need.
So a situation just came about, and I know Selena got some questions to ask, but I have to get this question off my chest right now while we are talking to you. So yesterday, 13 protesters was arrested. 13. Now they were arrested right after 6 hours after the mayor made an ordinance about low to minimum offenses in which they were going to give appearance tickets. So why did the Buffalo police decide to just arrest anyway? Expound on that. And I think you was just touching on it a little bit, but expound on it.
What we've seen is the police pushing back and letting the people know that real reform goes through the police union. So when you have the mayor pushing for these low-level offenses to be adjudicated through appearance tickets, they chose to arrest these protesters to show you who has the real power. It's the police union and not these politicians. But they do not want the community or the people to know how much power these unions really have.
So it's deep.
Oh, it's like a rabbit hole.
So is there anything in the community that the community can do to change any of that?
Well, we have to take our police department back from these unions. We have to bust up the unions. We have to defund the police. And when we say defund the police, we're not talking about getting rid of the police. Prior to 9/11, we had a police department that was based upon community policing. Post 9/11, we have a militarized police. So what people in the community would like to see is the police defunded, so they're demilitarized, because when you militarize the police department, the people become the enemy. So we want to step back from the militarization of our police department, go to community policing and take those extra resources and put them to combating poverty, which is the underlying issue in reference to a lot of the poverty and a lot of the crime in the community.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you on that. Taniqua, do you have a platform where our citizens can follow you and find out what you're doing in your community? Because you sound like a very smart woman where we could follow and we could learn from you like me in Wisconsin, and we could, we can find out what's going on here. Do you have a platform like a Facebook page or Instagram?
Yes, I have a Facebook page. It's Taniqua Simmons. It's TANIQUA SIMMONS.
Okay.
I'm kind of
Beautiful.
old, so I'm only on one platform at this time.
Okay. Nope. That is beautiful. Thank you so much, Taniqua, for coming on tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, Taniqua, let them know real quick before you go
Oh,
about
sorry.
tea time. Tea time.
What'd you say?
Let them know about tea time.
Oh, yes, I do a daily show called Tea Time with Taniqua, and it's a community conversation about the things that we need to know as a community. It's very educational.
Okay, perfect. That's perfect.
Absolutely. So make sure you get your tea. All right. Make sure you get your tea with Taniqua. All right. Thank you, Taniqua.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate
Thank you so much.
Nice meeting you.
Likewise, we look forward to seeing you again.
All right. Thank you. Talk to you guys later.
Time goes by very quickly when you're doing the news.
It does.
As we are out of time, folks, we want to thank you for watching Bringing It Full Circle. I am Andre Robinson.
I am Selena Seibert.
And we will see you again next Wednesday for Bringing It Full Circle. Again, support us at BIF Circle on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. All right. The more you support, the more we can do with our resources and being able to give you real news. Real news. All right. We want to thank you so very much, and we will see you again very, very shortly.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.